Hey, good morning, afternoon, whenever you get to this video. Mrs. Stewart here, and today we're going to be talking about what is an agricultural engineer. So we already know that an engineer is a person who uses their brain and their creativity to solve problems, to make something to solve a problem. So an agricultural engineer, agriculture is um, like when we grow crops for food, okay? Or when we produce food, from the crops or from the dairy, and it affects our environment, which is like what it's like outside, but it has to do with producing food, okay? So let's take a look. We're going to understand a little bit more about what it is an agricultural engineer does and who are they. So in the story, Mariana becomes a butterfly. What jobs or projects did agricultural engineers work on? Do you remember what her aunt was working on? Right, one was the mealybugs that were in the papayas, and they came up with the integrated pest management where they brought those wasps in to eat the mealybugs. So yeah, so pest control. And also she had all those plants in her office and she was working on, right, pollination and hand pollination. So we're going to watch these videos. We're going to think about what do agricultural engineers do. There may be some big words in there. Don't worry about it. You can stop and go back and watch it again. But watch what they do and what they're working with. Okay? So here we go. Let's start this off.
Reducing pollution in a farm's water supply, improving the efficiency of a rural electric power system, discovering a new way to extend the life of a tomato. These are some of the projects an agricultural engineer might work on in the quest to make agricultural operations as efficient and productive as possible. Most agricultural engineers work in offices with frequent research visits to farms, labs, or rural areas. They work for government offices, engineering firms, universities, and manufacturers. The ultimate goal for these engineers is to improve crop and livestock production.
Improve crops and livestock production, because those are all things that we eat. The milks produce cows. The cows produce milk. The crops produce food for us. So that's one of the big things that they do.
Focuses on the design and manufacture of the equipment and facilities needed to reach that goal. Agricultural engineers examine the impact of plant and food production on the greater environment and look for ways to reduce negative impacts.
Okay. This just makes me think, like, it reminds me of being a kid and they'd plant cotton out in the country, but they wouldn't plant it every year, and I didn't know why they just didn't keep growing cotton there, but they had to change the crop that they put in because the cotton would suck out a certain nutrient. I don't remember what it was, but then they'd switch it with the beans, and the beans were able to help put some of those nutrients back in. So that came from an agricultural engineer who knew the plants and how it affected or changed the soil that it's grown in, and then that they could put these other plants in to fix it and rotate the crops so that it doesn't negatively affect the earth, and like once all the nutrients are gone, nothing's going to grow there. So that's just one example. Keep going.
Sometimes they even make news headlines with breakthroughs on production techniques such as genetic engineering and cloning. Agricultural engineers need an aptitude for science and
Sorry, let me go back just a little bit to talking about like they genetically modify, they change a plant. Okay, you've heard, I'm sure, in the news about GMOs, genetically modified foods. Okay, what they do is they're able to change the plant to either produce more, or I think I remember hearing like some of the corn that's grown is genetically modified so that when the cows eat it, they produce more milk. So it has like a special hormone and it helps them produce milk so they get more milk. So genetically modified. So they're trying to figure out how to take this plant and make it like better. Okay.
Agricultural engineers need an aptitude for science and technology, along with good oral and written communication skills. They rely heavily on their ability to recognize and solve problems. A bachelor's degree in agricultural or biological engineering is the entry-level education needed. As the world population continues to expand, the need for the work of agricultural engineers will only continue to grow.
And that is for a number of reasons. One, if there's more people, we need more food, right? And if there's more people, we need to take care of the land so that we're able to grow that food, maybe in a smaller space because people are taking up more of the land that we grow our food on. So we have to figure out how to grow more with less and how to take care of our environment at the same time. That was it for that video. So we got to see a little bit of what agricultural engineers do, and we saw a lot of plants. They were working with the plants and taking care of the earth and changing plants so they could be better. They also talked about, just for a little snippet, they talked about even the buildings that they're in, designing the buildings better so that they're able to help with the manufacturing and the production of these goods. So like when they have to go to a packing house, they help maybe design the packing house to be efficient so they can get those food in and out so it's still really fresh. Okay, so now we're going to look over here, and if you notice, there's a lot of machines. Well, right here, there's a big machine. So also, agricultural engineers are also mechanical engineers. If the machine affects the production of crops or like the food, like from a dairy. Okay, so let's check that out. This video is a little bit longer. Agricultural engineering, what is it?
An
So,
agricultural engineer is an engineer that utilizes science and math, just like other engineers. But with agricultural engineering, the focus is primarily on design of agricultural systems. So things related to farming practices.
Agricultural engineering, it's pretty unique because it combines all the other engineering fields with aspects of biological sciences and ecology and puts those together to improve and produce food.
They apply those skills and those concepts towards managing agricultural systems and also managing biological systems.
agricultural engineering, why is it important?
There's three main problems that confront society today. One of those is producing enough energy for a growing population. One of those is producing enough food for a growing population. And the third one is maintaining environmental quality so that we can sustain the ecosystem services that support us.
Okay, so he said there are three things that it does. One, we have to think about like all the people here, and we need the energy because there's more every year. Like the population of the Earth gets bigger, it grows because people have kids, and that's just the way it works. And then those kids have kids over the years, and so there's more people. So we still need energy for the people. Two, he said we need enough food for all these people. So that's where agricultural engineers come in, is because they help solve the problem of how are we going to feed everybody? And the third one is taking care of the earth. How are we going to take care of the earth so that it's still here for like our kids and our grandkids and our great grandkids, for everybody who comes along in the future?
And agricultural engineers are going to be leaders in solving these problems in the future.
Agricultural engineering is very important for everyone because the engineering allows us to provide sustainable plant-based products.
New ways to do cropping or grow crops and using minimal chemicals and fertilizers and those types of things are very important.
Agricultural engineers, what do they do? Let's listen to find out, what do they do?
Here at International Paper, we're always looking at different ways to
Corn-based
apply
bioplastic.
these sustainable plant-based products in developing our own products. One of the projects I was fortunate to work on was the development of the latest generation of the Ecotainer cup, in which we were able to apply a new type of plastic coating, and I was involved in the selection of that material and also in modifying our equipment in our production plant to be able to run this new type of bioplastic.
Bioplastics are plastics derived from renewable resources like corn and vegetable oil. It's a renewable, let me go back just a little bit. It's a renewable source because corn can be grown again and again. And then, so it's not like we don't have corn, like there's only a certain amount of water on Earth, and that's it. Whatever water we have, that's what we have. So that is not renewable. Along with like gas and petroleum, those are not renewable sources. They can't be grown. That's whatever is here, that's what we have. So this renewable source like corn, you guys have seen cornfields all around. We can grow corn over and over and over again. So these bioplastics, like, we'll be able to continue to have these, and they're probably more biodegradable, which means like if they get thrown out in the trash and they get in the dirt, they will kind of like decompose and go away. Like they'll just be taken back into the earth. So it's safer for our environment.
The project I'm currently working on is developing smaller scale affordable digesters for dairy farms that have about 100 to 200 cows on them in the United States.
A methane digester transforms manure into energy. Okay, so he said one of the problems was, are we going to have enough energy for the world? So he's taking cow manure, which is cow poop, and turning it into fuel or an energy for us. But they do it at the big dairies. The smaller dairies where they don't have as many cows, it's too expensive. So he's working on a way that these smaller dairies can be a part of it. Let's see what he does.
Our overall goal is to help smaller dairy farmers, so 150 cow farmers, give or take, realize the benefits of anaerobic digestion.
Sorry, I just need to. Anaerobic digestion is a process in which microorganisms
Anaerobic digestion can
break
produce
down
energy, it can
biodegradable.
produce good fertilizer, and it can reduce pathogens. Right now, those type of benefits are only realizable for large farms. So what we're trying to do is develop technology that's at the right scale, it's affordable for smaller scale farmers so they can realize those benefits also.
What are the opportunities?
When you start to look at job opportunities, there's a lot of those, especially in the bioenergy field right now. In particular, there's large methane digesters in Ohio, there's bioethanol facilities in Ohio, there's wind farms. A lot of our graduates work in the food industry, and then a lot of our graduates work in areas related to water quality, so protecting environmental health. And there's a lot of our students that work in government settings, so how do you manage the wastewater for a city? How do you design the sewers for a city?
Agricultural engineering, how to prepare. If you want to be one, what should you do?
I always had an interest in science and also in math, and I always suggest to any student that's interested in engineering, especially agricultural engineering, that you really should continue to take math throughout high school.
I think it's important very important to have that base of the math and the science so that when you go to college you can start to specialize in different classes related to animal science, related to the biology of microorganisms. But you need that basis that you get from high school. And the other thing I would stress is that it's important to not just have the math and the science, but the biology and ecology. So where biology talks about animals, math talks about equations, and science talks about chemicals, ecology kind of puts all this together to look at how a system works.
And chemistry, understanding how reactions, balancing reactions, being able to take certain reactions that will take place with chemistry, for example, that's something you could use on a regular basis or on a daily basis. And if you're working in agricultural engineering and you're doing a lot of design of structures for agricultural buildings, you'll need those math skills related to physics and such to understand forces. And
We've seen those around here, and what do you know? Agricultural engineer designed those.
and those behaviors.
Who is a good fit? Who should be an agricultural engineer?
I think this career would appeal to people who are interested in natural systems, being outside in the natural environment, because a lot of the things I do are outside, looking at how do you merge human society with the environment. And so we need people who like the natural environment, but who also understand engineering and human systems to merge those two together. So people who have the interest of engineering coupled with natural environment, I think, are really well suited to be agricultural engineers.
Okay, so we got to learn a little bit more about what do agricultural engineers do. So we've noticed that they work inside, they work outside, they work on buildings, they work on mechanical things, they work on plants, they work with the animals. There is so much that agricultural engineers do. So that's why we're going to read a story now. It's called Honeybrook Farm Apple Orchard. Well, I'm going to tell you a story. And they these farmers need agricultural engineers to help them. And so we're going to see what these agricultural engineers do to help Farmer Ann and Farmer Bob in their apple orchard. So here we go. Honeybrook Farm Apple Orchard was one of the nicest orchards in the state. So this is a picture of it in the winter. It belonged to two farmers, Farmer Bob and Farmer Ann. During the winter, when the trees didn't have any leaves or apples, Farmer Bob and Farmer Ann could hardly wait for springtime to arrive so they could see their trees bloom. Farmer Bob said, I think this is going to be a great year for Honeybrook Farm Apple Orchard. Farmer Ann agreed. I can't wait to see how many apples we are able to harvest. Last year we had problems after we sprayed pesticides to kill insects. See, if you remember, pesticides are those chemicals that kill insects. Oh, yeah, because we sprayed those pesticides, Farmer John replied. There wasn't enough insects around to pollinate the flower blossoms, and not many apples grew on our trees. This year is a fresh start. I bet we'll have more juicy apples than ever before. Finally, springtime rolls around. It's a beautiful spring day. So when springtime arrived, Farmer Ann and went outside for a walk in the orchard to look at the trees blooming. But she wasn't outside long before she came running back to the farmhouse. Oh no, Farmer Bob, we have a problem. I see lots of green caterpillars on the trees. They're eating the buds of the apple blossoms. Oh no. If you remember from our story with Mariana and her ohelo plant, the blossoms or flowers get pollinated and then they turn into the fruit. So on the ohelo plant, it turned into the berry, where on the apple trees, those blossoms are going to turn into apples. Okay, this is terrible. We can't let the caterpillars hurt our trees. We will have to stop them. Wonder what they do. There's a caterpillar. I am a fruit tree leaf roller caterpillar. I am fat and green. Someday I will grow up into a moth with papery brown wings. I live in my egg all winter long, waiting until spring came so I could come eat the apple blossoms. Nom 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 nom. Oh, what do we do? Said Farmer Ann. I don't know, said Farmer Bob. We don't want to spray pesticides again. The farmers scratched their head and they thought, and they decided to ask an agricultural engineer for help. So along comes the first, they didn't want to use the pesticide, so along comes their first agricultural engineer. I know what to do. Let's try integrated pest management. I know a lot about insects and what they eat. Lady beetle larvae eat fruit tree leaf rollers. If we bring some of them to your orchard, they will eat most of the fruit tree leaf rollers that are harming your trees. So we need to bring in the lady beetles to eat your caterpillars. Even if you did spray pesticides, they won't hurt the fruit tree leaf rollers much. They just roll up in the apple leaf like a sleeping bag, and then they don't get sprayed. So remember to be careful with pesticides. If you spray pesticides, you can kill some insects that are pests and some that are not pests. And if the fruit tree leaf roller insects are causing your problems, you might not harm them at all. We're saved! Yay! Thank you, agricultural engineer, said Farmer Bob and Farmer Ann. So the farmers listened to the agricultural engineer and brought beetle larvae to the orchard. Soon there were fewer fruit tree leaf rollers eating the apple tree buds. Honeybees and other pollinating insects visited the tiny flowers. The farmers were happy. Late in the summer, just as the apples began to grow, the farmers went out for a walk in the orchard. Now it is summertime. Oh no, all the apples are growing sick and brown. What do we do? Oh no, look at that. I am a weevil. In the day I hide in the dirt, and at night I climb up the tree trunk for a tasty meal on the apple tree leaves. If there are too many of my weevil friends and I in the tree can die. Oh no, the farmers scratched their heads and they thought and thought. They decided to call. Who are they going to call? Right, an agricultural engineer. So along comes another agricultural engineer. I know what to do. The best way to stop the weevils from eating the trees is to stop them from climbing up the tree trunks. How are they going to stop the bugs from climbing up the tree trunks? You have any ideas? Well, let's find out. If we put sticky stuff like glue around the tree trunks, the weevils will get stuck. Most pesticides won't harm this kind of weevil at all. Integrated pest management is a better way to stop the weevils from harming your apples. Hmm. We're saved! Yelled Farmer Bob and Farmer Ann. When the farmers put glue around the trunks of the trees, the weevils' tiny feet got stuck and they couldn't reach the leaves. Soon there were fewer insects eating the apples. And let me try that again. Soon there were fewer insects eating the apple tree leaves and bark. In the fall, the farmers went out in the orchard. So in the fall is usually when they start picking the apples. So there's a picture of the integrated pest management of the weevils. Here we go. It's fall. Oh no, many of the apples have spots and holes in them. No one will want to eat those apples, complained Farmer Annie. What do we do? So look at those apples. Would you want to eat that apple with spots and holes? I am an apple moth larvae. I like to make tunnels through apples so I can eat the insides. People don't like to eat the same apples that I eat. Yeah, we know that. We don't want to eat an apple you've eaten. That looks gross. Ugh. So the farmers scratched their heads and thought and thought. Hmm, Farmer Bob came up with an idea. Maybe we can use integrated pest management to help stop the apple moth larvae. So Farmer Ann and Farmer Bob decided to ask, right, an agricultural engineer for help. So I know just how to control these apple moth larvae. We can set up containers filled with the smell of adult moths. The moths will get confused and won't be able to find each other. No moth families will form, and there won't be any apple moth larvae to grow up and eat your apples. Yay, we're saved! Farmer Ann and Farmer Bob were so happy. Finally, it was time to harvest the apples. Some of them had been eaten by insects, but most of them were fine and tasty looking. Thanks to those agricultural engineers, we know how to protect our orchard. Integrated pest management can be a big help. Pesticides aren't always the answer to our problems. Farmer Ann replied, "That's right. We need to make sure we help nature stay balanced so our orchard will be healthy. I think Honeybrook Farm apple orchard will be beautiful for years to come." So here was a story about Farmer Bob and Farmer Ann and how agricultural engineers helped them. So they had several problems in the story. If you start back at the beginning, oh, what was their problem? In the springtime, what was their problem? Right, this apple moth larvae. No, was it the apple moth larvae? Wasn't the weevil. So it was a caterpillar. There, that was right. The caterpillar was eating the leaves and making the tree sick, and it was eating the blossoms so that they're not going to have any apples without any blossoms. So how did they solve that problem? Right, they called an agricultural engineer who brought in another insect that would eat it. So it was that lady beetle would eat it. Num 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 num. And then we get apples. But then it was um, summertime, and they had a different problem. Right, those weevils were coming up and eating the leaves and eating the bark and making the apples kind of sick. So how did they fix that problem? How did they solve this problem? As they climb up the tree, right, they called the agricultural engineer and he put sticky stuff around the trunk so the weevils would get stuck. Okay, and then fall came around. They had another problem. Right, these apple moth larvae were eating the apples. Gross. Who wants to eat apples like that? So how did they solve this problem? Right? They called an agricultural engineer and they put up these containers that had the smell of adult moths. So then they got confused and they couldn't make families and have kids. So that kind of solved the problem. And finally, they were able to harvest their apples. Okay. So do you think that integrated pest management is technology? And how do you know? It is technology because it was a process designed by humans. It does happen like in nature, but the humans are the ones solving the problems and being like, oh, this is what you have. We need to bring this bug in. Okay? The sticky glue around the tree, that is man-made. Okay? But it was a process designed by humans to help solve a problem. Okay. And that is it for this video. There's no page for you to complete today, but I will be making you another video to get you caught up, okay? See you later.